So, that said, I've got, anybody wants to ask a question, I'm here. My wife's here, she handles our herd health. She can certainly answer a lot of questions there. She's also a nurse of 22 years, with a master's degree, and she's sitting there going, oh God, stop that. But wonderful partner in life. Again, I'm not on holiday, I'm actually down here at the INGC, and I love educational outreach. I get to write the whole thing off, it's great. So we love to come down and share it. See Arabella, it's wonderful, she's one of our dear friends. Yes, questions?
I've got a question. How come California is basically raw milk capable and other states are not?
All states are raw milk capable. It's a matter of whether there was political will or not. Now, raw milk has always been legal in California. And I give credit to the Stewies. Hand these around. The Stewies are why I can speak to you tonight. Stewies ran the Alta-Dena dairy in Los Angeles, which was a very famous, very large, wonderful dairy operation. And they went out of business in May of 1999.
Mark,
they,
the microphone.
oh, they stood guard. They stood guard at the gate to keep the raw milk laws from being changed when other states didn't. They didn't have a producer that stood there and had a lobbyist to say, no, you're going to have hearings, and by the way, you're going to keep the raw milk laws as they are. And where other states, there was nobody there to actually stand up and fight and keep the raw milk laws from being changed. So California is one of those states, there's 12 states that allow the legal retail sale of milk, and the state laws are fairly similar. Not exactly the same, but fairly similar. But in the case of California, it was because the Stewies made sure that somebody went to the legislature and said, by the way, we're going to have a hearing and we're going to pack the place with 1,000 people that want their raw milk. And industry just didn't want to have the attention come to the negative sides of pasteurized milk. So that's why we have the kinds of laws we have in California. But Pennsylvania has practically the identical law, and they've got 155 dairies with permits. And raw milk is illegal to be taken across state lines. So there's a tremendous amount of interstate commerce of illegal raw milk from the Amish to surrounding states. Multiple millions of dollars a year going to all places, including Capitol Hill, where Ron Paul drinks raw milk. So it's interesting how the politicians got to get the raw milk too. It's just they don't speak about it too much. So it is a people's food, it's a consumer-driven food, but that's the reason why California has legal raw milk. Any other questions, thoughts, concerns? Dr. Ron Hull is here. I have to give credit. It was fun yesterday when I was talking to the food safety regulators. I said, did you know that I have to give credit to Australia for my food safety plan? Because Dr. Ron Hull came to my farm and helped me create our first food safety plan. So thank you to Australia Dairy Safety for their food safety program. I had to chuckle, but it was very serious because you do have the DNA here to do a fantastic job. You got the resources here. You are the big dairy producer for the Pacific Rim. You know a lot about dairy here. It's just that it's industrial dairy that's kind of dominated the conversation. And it's time for consumer demand to speak up and say, wait a minute, we count too, and we want something that's digestible, not allergenic, low risk, delicious, good for our kids, to do all those things that I talked about in those studies that are so profoundly important, that are ravaging the children in the industrial cities that don't have access to farm food. And it's not just raw milk too, it's all whole food. As the whole diet. It's not just raw milk. Raw milk is a wonderful food within a whole food diet, but it's a very important part of a diet, especially for children. Any other thoughts?
We have a microphone on a very long cable, and if your voice isn't plugged into...
Just stand up and yell, it's fine.
Please have a go, but I'll bring you the mic if you need it.
Any questions? Guys, hit them hard. Yes?
How do you find, what's happening with conventional dairy in the US? Because I mean in Australia it's definitely on the decline.
Correct. That's a very good question. The dollar voting for pasteurized milk is showing that about 2 to 2.5% per year of dollars are dropping in the United States voting for pasteurized milk. So you're seeing a decline of pasteurized fluid milk consumption of about 2 to 2.5% per year, which is dramatic. I mean, it's really a slide. In California, in the last 10 years, we've lost 600 dairies. It went from 2,000 dairies to 1,400 dairies, just in 10 years. That is a dramatic drop in numbers of cows. We have not lost cows, but we've lost dairymen. And the big dairies eat the little dairies. It's really quite sad. But that's happening here in Australia to a certain extent. I don't know the exact numbers, but I know there's been a decline in dairymen as well. When you're paid less than the cost of your production, economic survival is not going to be there. A smart person says, I can't continue to go to my Visa card. I can't loan and loan and loan. It's always cheaper if you steal it, right? That's what's going on here. And when you're getting $14.50 per 100 pounds of milk and you need 17 just to break even, what kind of business is that? It's crazy. So you see people saying, I give up, I cry uncle, I can't do it. And that's why you see this decline. Now, I blame it on lack of innate value-added products. Yogurt's doing pretty good, not bad. Cheese is doing okay. Dried powdered milk export to China is doing excellent. But fluid milk is not doing well. Only 9% of all the milk produced in California by all the dairies actually gets into a fluid carton to be consumed in fluid form. Most of it's cheese and yogurts or dried powdered milks. So it's industrial use of milk. People are not drinking milk anymore. They're drinking lots of almond milk. Shoot, it's going crazy. They're drinking a lot of soy milk and hemp milk and rice milk and things that aren't milk. And they're calling themselves vegans and they're calling themselves paleos or whatever, because they're saying raw milk, they're saying pasteurized milk is, or they're not saying that, excuse me, let me back up. They're saying dairy products are so allergenic and so non-digestible, they must not be for man. That's kind of true on the pasteurized milk side. But on the raw milk side, absolutely not. We forget the 10,000 years of history that allowed us to have that competitive advantage by having access to a mammal that was eating grass and sunshine and rain that actually allowed us to create communities and not have to hunt anymore. They forget that part. And remember that old raw milk is called wonderful cheese. So it allowed you to have a food to sustain you through the winter times. The first pilgrims that settled back east in the 1500s all died and went back to Europe before the arrival of the first cows. Not a settler across the United States didn't come across with 2 or 3 cows in tow. If you got hungry, you ate the cow, but you always had something to eat and your kids didn't cry at night. So cows in churches were like every 2 miles across America for years because you had to milk the cow at night and you had to pray to God. So there was this wonderful culture of cows and people, but we've lost that as people have moved to the cities where milk comes from the store, not from the cow. People have no idea where their milk comes from. It comes out of a carton. And that milk is allergenic and lactose intolerance causing, and people are saying there's something wrong with it, so I'm going to make up some cult theory that it's not good for me, and all dairy products are terrible. Well, in the processed form, yes. But in the unprocessed whole natural form, with pasture feeding and sunlight and sunshine, it is what has propelled mankind to dominate Earth for the last 10,000 years. In fact, Dr. Bruce German said there's archaeological evidence, genetic evidence found about 10,000 years ago, well, not 10,000 years ago, it was carbon age dated to 10,000 years ago that showed that the enzyme lactase was found genetically in people at that time throughout the whole world, not everyone, but many. And it was actually a very deciding factor genetically, the fact that we actually started consuming milk from various different animals, horses, sheep, goats, cows, camels, and that was something that allowed us to have a competitive advantage in the environment we were in that day, because we're all starving to death, trying to hunt. And then having that cow, sheep, goat, horse, camel, whatever it was, and the immediacy of milk right now in fresh form from grass and sunshine and rain was a competitive advantage that we had, and we could take our food with us and not have to grow it or hunt it. And we forget that when we talk about going to the store to get our milk. We forget that completely. Any other thoughts, comments, questions? Now's the time, guys. Hit me.
Mark, I have a question.
Yes.
We seem to be in Australia really struggling to raise public awareness
Mm-hmm.
and really grow
Yep.
consumer demand. I mean, there's a lot of people in the closet, I think,
Yep.
and there is a lot going on in Australia, so people do get sort of apathetic. Do you have any advice?
You're too darn nice.
Oh, I agree.
Like the Canadians, too darn nice. There's a good part of that, and there's also a sad part. It's interesting, when you don't have a market developed, you don't know what you've lost when you lose it. If you have a developed market, like in California, if they took raw milk away, there'd be a run on the Capitol. Jerry Brown would be hung by the monks. So they know what they've lost. And so you haven't had something grandly apparent to lose. It hasn't been out there in stores and whatever. You've had some people upset because you've lost it in the small amounts that you've had. And those people need to be fired up, stoked up, fueled up, and brought together to really become a fuel for change. And it doesn't take a massive amount of people. It just needs to be an inspired, smart group of people that can get together and make a reasonable argument. And that's why I think that there's great promise here, because I think you have those people. We saw them today. They're here tonight. There's people that aren't here tonight that could be part of this. But don't be nice. Be sweet, be kind, be professional, but you don't have to be nice. You can be upset. And you really do need to step out there and say, you know what? I have to have this food because this other stuff makes me sick. Or I can't drink it. If that's your truth. You don't make it up, of course. But that's what the dollar voting is saying, that if you go and you just Google on your phone, the most allergenic food in North America, Milk, dairy products is number one. 11 kids dying every day from asthma? And doctors say don't get dairy products in asthmatic kids because they'll trigger asthma attack? Let me tell you what, that's near and dear to my heart. I spent 17 years as a certified paramedic transporting these kids, doing CPR and epinephrine intubation. I know about this stuff deep down in my heart. So there is a compelling reason to prevent this. Because that's with best medicine that we've got 11 kids a day dying. Best medicine is causing 11 deaths a day. I'm sorry, that's not prevention. Maybe that's even causation, who knows? The bottom line is we can do better, and it's nutrition. Hippocrates said 2,400 and some odd years ago, let food be your medicine, medicine be your food. We've forgotten that. Good health is not the absence of more drugs. It's personal responsibility, it's exercise, and it's nutrition, and it's environmental too. But bottom line is we have to eat better to be better, and it's the gut. We all know the Human Genome Project talked about how critical it was that we have good bacteria in and on our bodies because it drives our immune systems. That doesn't drive modern Western medicine at all. Long lines of sick people do. So we have to depart from that, become personally responsible. We have to become educators. We have to become examples yourself, tell your story, and bring people together and be passionate. And when you do that, you have a cause and a real right for one.